What was the dumbest thing you've done with your friends? When I was 12, my older brother left me and my friends alone at home after school to buy us snacks from a gas station, which of course meant that we were free to do stupid things without someone watching over us. So while he was away, I brought my friends into my brother's bedroom to show off a few of his cool stuff. I showed them the dartboard and played a few rounds on the mini ping pong table. While we were chilling on the floor, reading a few of my brother's comic books, one of my friends spotted my brother's new drum set that was hidden under a large cover. At first I asked them not to touch it and explained how out of everything in the entire house, it was the one thing no one else was allowed to touch, except for my brother. Every time in the past that I asked to play on his drums, he rejected it, saying that it was expensive and not a toy. My friends grinned at each other and pulled the covers off. They picked up the drumsticks, sat on the stool, and started banging on the drums without an ounce of rhythm. They told me to join them, and I said no, but I quickly got convinced when one of my friends suggested that I only play on it for a couple of seconds, and later put the covers back on so that my brother could never find out. So I took a seat on the stool and tried to do a drum roll, just like how I watched my brother do it before. My friends cheered, calling me cool and talented, which encouraged me to try out other patterns on the drums. Then, one of my friends pulled up a video from their phone and suggested that I try to do tricks with the drumstick too, like spinning it around or throwing it up in the air and catching it or slamming it down hard just like the rock stars do it. I couldn't say no to their excited expressions and tried throwing the drumsticks up in the air to catch it and slam it down onto the drum. But on my fifth try, I missed the drumstick and it landed perfectly inside one of the drums, making a very noticeable rip on the surface. I stood up from shock while my friends gasped simultaneously. We all stared at each other with wide eyes and panicked hearing my brother's car pull up into the driveway. Then we all sprung into action, covering up the drums and jumping back onto the floor to read comics just before my brother walked into the room. My heart was seriously racing when my brother greeted us. He looked at our red faces and called us weirdos before inviting us to watch a movie he set up downstairs. We ran out of his bedroom after putting the comics away and sat through the movie, praying he wouldn't find out what we just did. Luckily, my brother was too busy studying for exams that night, so he didn't have time to practice drums. At school the next day, my friends and I were still shaken up and worried. One of them brought up how we had a friend in band who could hook us up with a place that does repairs, but that would mean that my brother would find out we touched his drums without his permission. My other friend suggested that we could just take one of the school's drums from the band room, since they have the money to pay for missing instruments anyway. After a bit of discussion in the boys' bathroom, we decided to steal one of the drums and bring it home. But when we arrived at my house and put it beside the broken drum, it looked too small, and the sound wasn't the same as I remembered it. We looked at each other and frowned. Mission failed. We sat on the floor and waited for my brother to come home from soccer practice to tell him the truth. We talked about the things he would do to us, like make us clean his room for a year or two, or turn us into personal butlers. After a couple of minutes, my brother showed up and saw our depressed state. Once he heard the full story and saw the damage, my brother burst out into laughter. I asked him if he was angry, and he said, "Oh, I'm definitely angry, but stealing drums from school is hilarious and wild. You guys are in deep trouble though." My brother drove us back to school to return the drums, and we apologized deeply to the band director, who also ended up laughing at our situation. We of course got detention for the rest of the year, which was way better than getting suspended. And in order to pay off the costs for the repair of the drum, me and my friends had to wash cars in the neighborhood and mow lawns all summer long. We eventually made enough money with the help of the large tips a few neighbors gave, but it was seriously tough work. And you would think we learned our lesson, but once my friends and I hit high school, we ended up doing more dumb things together.